Meantime, for perspective on how the last 10 days has changed the status quo in the Middle East moving forward, let's bring in the Foreign Desk Editor-in-Chief, Lisa Daftari, California GOP Delegate Elizabeth Barkohana, and the Heritage Foundation Senior Policy Analyst for National Security, former IDF paratrooper, Daniel Flesch. Thank you all for coming on. Lisa, to you first. The president wrote on Truth Social, it is not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great, again, why wouldn't there be regime change? He ends it by saying, MEGA, make Iran great again.
Yeah, it's a nod to the administration and previous administrations' PTSD over the term regime change. He's actually acknowledging we're afraid to say regime change, but heck, wink, wink, if the Iranian people are not happy, therefore, well, there could be regime change. We might just support it. We're not threatening to bring in regime change, but we want it's a nod to the Iranian people as well. So I think it's a great way to threaten the regime once again.
And on that note, the New York Times writes the following here, quoting, the most consequential battle for Iran's future will be fought not between Iran and the outside world, but among Iranians themselves. That struggle is only just beginning, Elizabeth Barkohana.
Well, the Iranian people are no stranger to rising up and pushing back against the oppressive regimes that they've been under for these 46 years. But also prior to that, there's unrest in Iran they're no stranger to that. And they are now, you know, in the previous administration under Joe Biden, when Mahsa Amini died and they were coming out in the streets and pushing back and protesting, the Biden administration gave the Islamic Republic a lifeline. And those, just like under Obama, these uprisings were just crushed by the governments. And now it remains to be seen in these next few days if there is a ceasefire that holds, whether the people of Iran are going to come out into the streets and what they're going to ask for.
Well, I mean, the IRGC would come out and would kind of tame those uprisings, right? I mean, that's the whole thing is now it seems like the IRGC is not very potent, not very strong. 10 seconds and I got to go to Daniel.
Absolutely. They've already come out and told the riot police and the besieged, which are the thugs of the regime, to be on alert. And that is exactly the Achilles heel of this regime are the people coming out onto the streets and causing a revolution. That is what they are most fearful of. Yeah.
Daniel Flesch, to you now. I mean, you talk about all of this. What about Hamas? Does Hamas survive in the end? Can it survive in the end? Or is there some workaround here where they have to get out of leadership in Gaza?
Well, certainly Hamas is as isolated as it's ever been, you know, with Iran as primary patron, now suffering a significant setback and blow from Israel and the United States. It's left wondering, and also having attacked Qatar, it's left wondering what Hamas's leadership in Gaza is going to decide right now. The war is still raging. We've not lost sight of that in the last 10 days, despite also the direct war between Israel and Iran. And also, there's still over 50 hostages left in Gaza. So Israel's still very much committed to, defeating Hamas as a military threat from Gaza and returning its hostages. But right now, Hamas, like I said, is isolated, and it's unclear if they have the ability to reconstitute themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing here. We're going to go one more round of questions, but I have to go to breaking news down in Israel. Can we bring the Israel live shot back up? Greg Palcott, maybe we can get him in front of the camera. The news just coming in, they have confirmed 3 deaths in Israel because of the last set of rockets that came in. Remember, we are 13 minutes away from the ceasefire apparently going into effect. And do we have Greg at all, Jillian? Do we know if we don't have Greg? We're going to work on getting him up. But it is amazing as you look at the live scene there of Tel Aviv that the missiles came in. We talked to Ambassador Mike Huckabee, the former governor of Arkansas. He spoke with us from Israel. He was hearing the sirens. They took cover. And apparently the Iron Dome and the U.S. resources out there did not knock down some of these missiles. One of the missiles came in, and apparently 3 people in Israel have now been confirmed killed minutes before this ceasefire was set to begin. And that's the whole thing is, you know, you look at this, Lisa Daftari, and it is one of those heartbreaking things where you're like, you know, if your family member is one of those, you're like, we were 17, 13, 15, 20 minutes before the ceasefire.
Well, this actually defines the reality in Israel. It also defines the reason why the United States got involved in striking the Islamic Republic. Those realities have not changed. The Islamic Republic still maintains itself as a national security threat to the United States, a threat to Israel, a threat to the region. Its proxies continue to rain down missiles. It continues to rain down missiles. And, you know, we have to, if we're going to trust, I would never trust this regime, but if we're going to trust, you have to trust but verify. This is not a regime that is ready for a ceasefire.
We talk a lot about the hostages, and it's really important that these remaining hostages are released, Elizabeth Barkahona. But, you know, you look at what's happening in Israel right now. There are people that are in Israel that suddenly lost their lives because Iran decided they were going to take one more shot before this thing ended.
Everybody today has been trying to apply rational thinking to this regime. The Islamic Republic is not a rational state actor. When they are about to, supposedly they agreed to a ceasefire, but they're going to continue to shoot rockets and missiles into civilian populations up until the last minute, that is not a good faith negotiator. They just killed people. And there is no way that this ceasefire is going to hold. Israel is not going to tolerate that, and they shouldn't.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, Daniel Fletcher, when you look at this. I want to just put this up because this is the father of hostage Alan Ohel, and he said the following: "This is a moment when decision makers must understand that there is a specific point on the timeline where a decision has to be made to focus on their return. And this is that time. But at the same time, you have to get this stopped. You have to get the violence stopped, and you have to get people in Israel from running for their lives every 25 minutes.
Well, certainly, and I think President Trump, by trying to broker a ceasefire, is doing just that. And I want to note also for everyone out there that what Iran is doing right now, attacking up to the last minute of the ceasefire, is the same sort of strategy or tactics, rather, that its proxy organizations have done, which means that the vaunted Islamic Republic, the patron of these proxy terrorist organizations, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others, are acting just like their subservient proxies. That's a sign that the regime is not very strong. It's as weak as it's ever been. And to your earlier comment about the president's tweets, it's a time for the Iranian people, if possible, to take matters into their own hands if they have the capability and supply to do so. But you're right, the hostages need to come home, and it's kind of slipped under the radar as Israel's actually retrieved the bodies of a few hostages the last week or so, showing that the IDF is still very active in Gaza, and perhaps only military pressure can actually bring more of the hostages home.
Yeah, and it's kind of amazing to me because you had Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, who said the following here: "The bombing of Iranian nuclear facilities by the United States marks a perilous turn in the region that is already reeling." The Iranians have been terrorizing that region for decades, Lisa.
Ask the Arab states that surround the Islamic Republic in Iran. Ask them what they think about the strikes going on inside Iran right now.